guys, gaming should bring us together. It does, regardless of who we are, where we come from, what our sexual orientation is. It makes us feel part of a community. It makes us feel together. We work together to defeat all sorts of nonsense, kill all sorts of bosses, and accomplish all sorts of things. And for a brief spell, it kind of takes us out of the horrors that are kind of going on, especially in 2020 when everything seems to be shitting on us. Gamers have become heroes, they've become celebrities, they've got hundreds of thousands of fans, people look up to them as role models. Sadly, though, far too many of those role models have let your community down. Tonight we're going to be discussing some of those horrors and who's been accused of them. Those accused that are trying to hide the horrors and what can be done for us to move on and push those people out of the community. Because it's not what we want. It's not what you guys deserve. And it's certainly not what we want to see going forward. When we started talking about the fact that we were going to do this, Toasty, what was your first thoughts?
I was sort of a bit nervous, really. It's quite a touchy subject, I suppose, especially when it's still very sort of early and things like that. But I was excited too. And obviously the original plan, what we had, is for another day, which tune in, it's going to be great. But no, yeah, I think it's really, really good. It's really good to talk about it, I think, as well. And not to be afraid to talk about it and have an opinion and not worry what people think and that sort of stuff. So it's good to have the outlet to do that and actually discuss like my opinions and what you guys think and what we can do. Yeah, so I'm excited.
McLeod?
Yeah, I much to worrying about being a bit of an echo. Yeah, I was worried about talking about these sort of things. I worry that I almost embody the idea of sort of white privilege, just in my sort of like the outlook that I am, the sort of accent I have, and my upbringing.
I mean, a posh git.
But yeah, exactly. You know, and that's what it looks like to the outside world. Whereas the reality is that things like this are incredibly important to me, and we do need to talk about them. We shouldn't be afraid to talk about them. I think that's the most important takeaway from this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think especially with the bravery of these women speaking out finally as well. It shouldn't be a taboo thing. I think if it's talked about more people would be confident to share stories and stuff. So.
And it's the sheer staggering quantity that I've discovered in sort of like, you know, the 2 days that we had of planning this when we decided to change what our first topic was. It's crazy. It's an epidemic, to forgive the pun on current crises. But yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah, I mean, we'll let you guys, I'm sure, will be able to either search for it or you already have done. We're not going to go into every single detail of every single allegation, but to sum up briefly what I've seen in the last day or so in regards to Method specifically. For those that don't know, Method are a World of Warcraft raiding guild, and World of Warcraft has been dominated by Method for many, many years, and they've become an integral part of the community. They've tried to build themselves as this family-friendly brand with good values and good morals, and what's happened in the recent days is it's come out as one of their main healers, Josh, Method Josh, as he's known, has been displaying horrendously predatory behaviour to a 16-year-old and also a girl when she was 14. The girl when she was 14 was some years ago, and at that time he was very well aware of her age and tried to force himself on her sexually, allegedly. And again, this is all alleged. A police report was filed and Method done nothing about it. What I want to ask, guys, is why are businesses and brands not doing more to stamp this out?
Yeah. So it's something I touched on a little bit.
It's that ripple in the water thing, isn't it? Like making a fuss, I think.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I mean, I talked about the difference between something proved in a real court, real jail time, compared to the kangaroo court that is the internet. Not to say that the judgments that they come to on the internet aren't correct in any way. But, you know, these allegations are career destroying. They can be. And I think businesses who are there to make money are worried about, you know, once they've pulled that trigger, once they've said, well, we now believe that this is absolutely true, you can't come back from that, or it's very hard to. And I think that's why businesses who are obviously money orientated, let's not kid ourselves, but, you know, that's why they're not willing to do a whole lot.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I personally, I'll go a step further than that, and I think it's purely down to money. It's purely down to the fact that Josh at one point was raking in what, 10, 15k viewers on Twitch before he got banned. Can't be far away from that.
Crazy.
He's raking in the money for them. He was an absolute cash cow for them. Allegedly, he was still streaming on a Chinese streaming service. Since then, he was one of the best healers in the world, and they're up against some tough competition. And I think with the first allegation, they must have sat down and had a conversation. Sko, one of their co-GMs, has admitted on Twitter that he was made aware of this. This is the first allegation. The 14-year-old that Josh allegedly tried to have sex with numerous times, sent many texts and Snapchats to her of his penis and of numerous. I don't know how many times, but I saw at least one example of that. And surely, if any allegation like that comes, if this was a school, if this was any sort of workplace, you'd be suspended until an investigation. That didn't happen. Yeah. Josh continued to be part of the raiding setup until it came to the point just yesterday when Meth had turned around and said, actually, no, we're going to drop Josh now. And it's because another allegation from somebody else came out that was so coherent, that was so well laid out, that was point by point, that had screenshots, that had evidence. And Meta thought,
yeah, I think I saw those.
Yeah, we've been caught.
Yeah,
and they can give all the bullshit they like about, oh well, we want to make sure that we're doing the best for our fans and we want to act quickly. But they didn't fucking act quickly. They acted years too late. Years too late. And it's these kids that are in that have grown up without any form of, how can I put it?
Outlet, help. They feel like they can't express what's happened, and no one's going to believe them.
Well, a lot of these guys that become the best gamers in the world are stuck behind the computer for their whole childhood and their whole teens and their whole 20s. They never get to.
You mean there's no real life experience?
No, there's no real life experience talking to women and talking to people and knowing what it feels like to get knocked back by a woman. You know, it feels what it's like to talk to somebody and maybe be able to go further forward or get knocked back. People, they've not had this, so they're getting this now. They've got this pseudo fame. People are now looking up to them, and for some reason, they're stuck. They don't know what to fucking do.
Yeah.
I think because of that lack of, like you said, experience with women and things like that as well, and relationships in general. I think especially back when the Gamergate thing happened in 2014, that lady that was the the game critic, was basically saying that a lot of these games, Grand Theft Auto, etc., were marginalizing women. And if you think about the teenagers that have been raised at home behind a computer screen or TV screen or whatever, playing these games, picking up these virtual prostitutes and running them over, and just total disrespect for women in the games. And I mean, I'm the type of person that would say, a game's just a game. It doesn't bother me that much. However, if these young boys and whatever, and young boys have been brought up on these games, they've not been shown respect for women, they haven't got a lot of experience with women and in relationships in general, then there's not really a wonder why they can't cope if they get knocked back by a woman or turned down. You're made to feel stupid, and what do you do if a woman's done something wrong according to these games? you know?
Yeah, I believe that if if the allegations, especially with method, obviously what's gone on, it's the power as well. It's like, well, I am like you were saying, Sru, like I am this guy, I'm the best in the world at being a healer. I've got a great guild on WoW. I'm getting loads of money from Twitch. I'm basically like the pseudo fame. Like you think you're famous and you abuse your power and you abuse your money and stuff to do this sort of thing and get away with it. It's very similar in the general media, like with what's been going on with what's Harvey Weinstein, his allegations and all this sort of stuff, and what's been going on there, and it's all about money and power and how it just basically transfers over to Twitch. Like,
yeah, absolutely. That social leverage is not akin to being a CEO or just the boss of someone.
Yeah.
That fame that you can use, especially against
power,
someone vulnerable who's still a child.
I mean, it's the power thing, but then it's as the person on the other side, as a woman, you're thinking, what repercussions are there if I don't take this advance, or if I say, I'm really sorry, I've got a boyfriend, or what's going to happen if it's a boss that does that, if it's a CEO, if it's this really famous Twitch streamer. And I mean, there was the whole thing with there's a streamer called Molly, again, I think around 2014, she came out and said that Omid Dariani, the CEO of online performance group, had supposedly the management company. So supposedly he was talking to her at an event, and she was asking advice, and they got really friendly and really close. Sort of stayed around each other all day, talking about streaming and how to grow her career and things. And then apparently on the way to the hotels and stuff, she said, any final advice for me? And he said, to all the women in this industry, you're only going to get somewhere if you sleep with somebody high up. And if you if some women don't do the right thing, then they'll, a lot of them get blacklisted. So, in a nutshell, that's what was apparently said.
Blackmail, isn't it? It's either do this and become big, or don't do it and die with the rest. Like,
And she sort of says that she felt like, well, I don't want to be blacklisted, but I don't want to sleep with the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And apparently it was a, she was playing it off sort of innocent, like she didn't really fully understand his what's the word? Proposition. So, realizing she was trying to squirm out of it, he bluntly then said, "I want you to come have a threesome with me and my wife." And she felt the need to make an excuse and try and make it as valid as possible because she didn't want to be blacklisted. And I just think that's disgusting.
For her to make, like, I would never expect anyone to make a decision like that. Why does this happen any different?
No, it's that same CEO actually resigned. So what does that tell you? Apparently he'd come out and said, I don't recall this ever happening. I don't recall this event. However, I said that I would believe women when they came out with their stories. Therefore, it must have happened, and I accept that it's happened. Which isn't an apology. It's not really taking responsibility for it. It's kind of shirking off and leaving everybody confused. So I didn't really understand that one.
Yeah, it's like kind of saying, oh yeah, it sounds like something I'd do. Yeah, I probably, that's bullshit. Yeah, I probably would do that. Yeah, I mean, it's that sort of pressure from people that are senior to you, people that the only consequence of anybody, male or female, rejecting an advance from somebody. In fact, no, sorry, I'll rephrase that. There shouldn't be any consequence from somebody refusing a proposition from somebody.
No.
And what we're suggesting here is that in a lot of cases, people are thinking, actually, if I don't do this, there will be a consequence, and that's wrong, and that's abuse. It's the same as when we've got young kids. Well, again, like the allegations that were made against Method and others, and people talk about consent, and I think people don't understand consent well enough. I think it's an education thing. I think there was people in the chat that were talking about education, and I think they're bang on. People think consent is just, well, they didn't say no, but there's even if they say yes, there is a difference between consent and informed consent. Informed, you can convince anybody, like you could convince a 13-year-old that it's a good idea to have sex with somebody, right? But the difference is that's not consent. That 13-year-old doesn't have the ability.
It's coercive. It's not.
Yeah, they don't have the ability to think about the consequences. What if I get pregnant? What if this person has, what if I now give this person that power? What if I do this? What's going to happen? The consequence of their actions. What's coming after that? That's the difference. And I
thought about it in like a really like simple form, as in, what if a boss comes onto you or something? The simplest form of it is, well, if I reject him, is he going to sack me? Or, is he going to make my life hell at work? Or, the lightest one would be just, not talking to you anymore, shunning you almost because you've shut them down.
You're no longer friends,
You're no longer friends. So, I mean, women tend to do this thing. I mean, and men in relationships that women come onto them. You tend to do that whole, sweetly approach. And then if you think about those guys that have been brought up with not much experience in that, would maybe take that as a come on. And it's not an excuse, but I think a lot of people hang on to excuses like that.
Well, as you say, with the rejection thing, like especially these powerful Twitch streamers, they've always got what they wanted. Like, I want this, yes, I get this, yes, this, yes. And as soon as they say no, it's like, what do you mean no? It's do you know what I am? Like,
do you know who I am? Like,
that sort of thing. Like, what? Yeah, it's just what a mentality to have. But and then the other flip side of the coin, it's like innocent until proven guilty. Obviously, there's been a lot of allegations what's being done at the moment. A lot of them jumping on the bandwagon to get on the fame, and there's all this sort of other side of it as well, which obviously I'm assuming we'll delve into.
Yeah, I mean,
but
to kind of touch on that, actually, it's probably not a bad segue. It's something that kind of it pisses me right off, to be honest, is when I've been looking through Twitter and other social media platforms and stuff today, I saw a lot of guys that were saying, well, she was, mentally unwell, and she was a drunk, and she was from a broken home, and all this. How can you trust her? And there's so much fucking wrong. I've seen numerous examples of that. And
like, how is that justified?
Well, yeah, for a number of reasons. One, it doesn't matter. Oh, and another thing is she's got an OnlyFans, so.
Right.
She
asking for
so
it.
Here's
hell.
There's so much wrong with this. One,
I hate that. Yeah. I hate that saying. Well, she was wearing a low cut top, so she was asking for it.
I mean, to start with, it's
okay.
Like it's nobody should have to experience that for any reason, regardless of their mental health, what they wear, if they're into sex work, whatever it is that they're doing. Secondly, predators are that very thing. They prey on people, and they will prey on people that are potentially the weakest. They're very, very good at it. They will look for people that are maybe a little bit feeling pushed from society, or have further issues that they're currently dealing with, that maybe need a crutch to hold on to, that they think they've got somebody that understands them, that they can do this, that they can manipulate people very, very well. And that's why you'll see these sorts of demographics falling for these fucking morons.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and
well, it's kind of.
Sorry, Toasty, go for it.
No, I was going to say, especially with when you say like younger girls and stuff, they don't know that they're doing that. They think it's fine and they think it's okay, and it's like, well, this is what I want now, so I don't care about thinking about the future or it's going to affect me. It's just what I want now. And I think even when you say in Method's case, when there was 14, like she wouldn't have known, like surely, like she would have known that was wrong. But I mean, in her eyes, she might think, oh, it's fine and it's right. So they don't even know they're being manipulated. That's why it's so bad.
Sometimes, yeah. But the with that, it Method that was the 16-year-old, and there's the screenshots and stuff. Was that right, Sarah?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So because I looked at that, she was all, I'm 16, you know that, right? And he was still pushing. I can drive to yours. Tell me where you live, type of thing. For a while she was fighting it, and it sort of over time I think he seemed to wear her down. And I know she mentioned in one part that I think a mother passed away or somebody in the family passed away, and he preyed on that, like he was there for her or whatever when that happened.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes, even though you know that, like as a 16-year-old girl or whatever, that it's not appropriate what they're doing, they'll still, you know, if a predator's a predator, they'll change the tune. They'll pick into something else, and it's just wrong.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. You know, it's not just streamers that are the bad guys. You know, like, you know, we also, you know, you also face abuse, and there's a difference between trolling, Twitch banter, and then there's another level for it. You know, and again, it's what McLeod said earlier. It's kind of hard for me to sit here as a straight white man and sort of claim any sort of knowledge for this sort of thing. You know, anybody that says that women have it easier on this platform are clearly talking at their fucking arse. Like, they really are. You know, you get so many people, so many streamers that'll say, "Oh, it's these girls that sit there with like low cut this on and short skirts and stuff. They're stealing my views." Are they? Fuck. Nobody is interested in your stream if that's what they're on this website for. Nobody.
Yeah.
They're not stealing anybody from you. Like, you know, to view Andy. Like, it's not happening. You know, that is not why. That is not the reason why you're not Shroud. You know, you're not Shroud because you're not entertaining and nobody likes you. You know, it's nothing to do with the fact that there's women on this platform, and to try and look for a deflection or for something to blame is ridiculous. I had it, but I've lost it. I was trying to find it there. Somebody had put together, a female streamer had put together a sort of collage of all our, and this was purely from Twitch chat. This was not from like DMs, and some of the shit that guys say is just horrific. You know, it really is, and you just think, really, you think that's cool and you're going to be successful to that? You know?
Yeah, it's like they're going to pay attention to you because
this is going to get you somewhere. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah,
makes sense.
And the thing is as well, what annoys me the most is if there's a female streamer or whatever, you know, or even when you're out somewhere, if you're a woman and you're wearing something that's, you know, some would say showing a lot of you off or whatever, then men give you a terrible comment in the hopes that, you know, because you're dressed like that, that's what you're offering somebody. They expect something, and then when you turn them down, it's sort of you know, a massive offense because well you dress like that though. Like it just the mentality needs to change. It's just so crazy.
Like, I don't dress like this for you. I dress like this because
if I want to wear a fucking low cut top because you know, barely anything because it's 30 degrees in England, I'm gonna do so. Like I'm not doing it because it's for you. Like, I don't live my life for you, thanks.
It goes back to what we were saying earlier. It's that I think a lot of people haven't, especially in the streaming and gaming community and chat. I'm sorry. You're going to have to admit this. A lot of us are nerds, right? A lot of us are nerds, right? And many of us weren't the giga chads that you think you are, okay? That were out there every Friday and Saturday night working on their game with the opposite sex and becoming an absolute master at reading the room and having pinpoint emotional intelligence. And what's happened is a lot of these guys are only starting to be involved in the world of trying to talk to the opposite sex, trying to incite something now, and they don't understand it. They've learned about sex from fucking Pornhub.
Yeah,
you know?
literally.
They think that every girl wants to be choked and spat on in the face. You know,
exactly.
Some do, but some really don't.
Yeah, exactly. Consent. It's all about consent.
And having
they'll just slap them. They'll be like, "What?"
And talking. People don't talk enough anymore. You know, people don't talk about
just
things.
Communicate. Like, Literally, like, don't dodge around it. Just, I'm real black and white. I'm just like, I see how it is. Like, I don't like, especially like with my girlfriend and stuff. Like, I don't mean to offend and stuff. I just like, babe, it's just, this is what it is. Like, it's just black and white. Like, I don't dodge around the bullet and shit. But yeah, too right.
I feel bad because these guys that don't, maybe aren't really 100% confident. I would never want them to feel like they've knocked confidence because of this kind of thing. Like, oh gosh, I really can't approach women now. Like, what if some allegation comes out? Like, it's
yeah.
just be honest, and then if the other person's, clearly telling you. It's just be a decent human. I don't know what to say.
I was about to say that very
Like,
thing, and I was letting you finish. I was about to say, don't be a cunt.
Literally, like, just notice the signals. Like, just because they're talking to you doesn't mean they want to sleep with you.
They're
like,
not nuanced either. It's not. Oh, I missed the fact that it's fucking crazy. It is fucking crazy.
But it's the world we're living in,
Oh.
and it's like 2020 has been. Everybody, there's the meme that said 2020 is fucking crazy, and it seems to me, we've got all this stuff going on with sexual abuse. We've got people not asking folk if it's okay to do this, that, and the next thing. We've got racial abuse. It seems to be that 2020 is the year where we are learning things that we should already fucking know.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
Yeah. In reality, we've had more time.
Like, don't
people have been not doing anything. So
don't be, don't be mean to each other just because we're, somebody's a different sexuality or a different gender, and we're just fucking it up. And gaming is one of those things. It's what I said at the start. We go in, and normally it's to escape. Whatever game it is you play, you go in to escape. And now when this shit gets brought into it, you lose your escapism and you lose that ability, and you make them
tainted.
And some of these pricks, and I'll keep calling him out, but that fuckwit Josh, right? That absolute ball bag, he is not just ruined his own life, which I'm pretty glad about. He's ruined lives of the people that he's abused, the people that have worked fucking hard to get that organization to a place where it is. Those people that have worked hard to be in that organization, and everybody's surrounded with method. And I can't not believe, good English, I have to believe that somebody in method knew something more. It's
especially at that
prove
level.
That. I can't, but it's one of those things where I can't prove it, but it's true. I can't prove that, but it's true. It's like,
how did the help?
I don't know that Boris Johnson likes to touch himself to badger porn, but I know it's true.
Yeah, exactly. Just one of them things. Every British,
I can't prove it. I can't.
I don't know, because some of the companies, like I've seen that one about Say No to Rage, the guy called Lono. There was a thing with between him and a girl going by Mind of Snaps, I think it is 2018. But there was an event in Florida. Basically, prior to that event, things had happened, and he'd made not advances, but just made her feel really uncomfortable and said inappropriate things. And there's a whole, she wrote a whole letter to him basically, and said, don't contact me after this. I don't want to know. That was recently. But the company, I think it was Guardian Con, which is now GCX, I believe. Yeah. But basically they stated that they couldn't ban him from the event because she'd not gone public at that point. She told them about it, and she said, I don't want him around me at this event. So what can you do? They couldn't ban him from it, but they said he won't get one of those, is it a creator pass or something? One of the passes that gets you into all the private areas as a streamer. Yeah. And, she was confident in that the security people knew about it and stuff, but he still managed to get a pass, whether he stole that pass or however he got that pass, and managed to still get into those places when she was setting up her way too much. Like, the event knew about it, yet he still managed to get a pass for this event, which I don't understand.
No, we're back. It's good. We're back.
Oh, we're back?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just a second. We're good. Sorry, you were saying, Ellie?
Oh, okay. No, I was just saying I don't
censor
understand
you.
how we still got the pass and was still able to get to her. And she says that she was in like mid conversation, and she could see him in the line of sight and stuff, and it just threw her off her whole conversation, because psychologically that over time that does something to you. I don't think it's appropriate if that venue knew and they said, well, we can't ban him, but we won't give him a pass, but then somehow he still managed to slip by security and get into those events that were supposed to be secure. So it's strange. And obviously because he is quite big, you think, is that part of it, or was it just an accident?
Hmm. But I was just referring to sort of chat what Banefire, I believe, just said
I was
there.
just reading that there. Yeah.
Yeah, I know where it's coming from, because you see it like a woman posts on Twitter or something on Facebook about this allegation, and straight away in the comments is like, oh, it's fucking dick, and like, oh, as if he's done that, like, and there's no evidence of it. She just literally posted it, and she's been on for 3 minutes, and it's like, da-da. Like the same with like Syndicate, what I've been reading, like he literally posted today, it was like, what? It's like, what allegations? And obviously his ex-girlfriends were saying sort of stuff. Two girls came out and talked about it. But yeah, it's like innocent until proven guilty. Like, I appreciate, the women are the victims in this, and I totally appreciate that as well. But as you say, there is some women out there who do jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, this famous streamer did it, and then, oh, I'm going to get attention now. Oh, right, my Twitch is going to grow. Oh, right, okay, let's do it that way. Without even any evidence or any, do you know what I mean? It's just an allegation and a bit of tears, sort of thing.
From my point of view with that, is sorry, Matt, it's, and I've said this before, yeah, that happens, but in my opinion, I'd much prefer to believe a liar over a rapist. And I mean that in the sense that I'd much rather believe somebody that turned out to be a liar than believe somebody that turned out to be a rapist. Now, we've had,
end of the day, if you have done nothing, you've got nothing to worry about.
Well,
you've done nothing.
The sad thing is that still ends careers. That still ends careers. That still, really harms lives and harms people. Mainly men in that particular scenario. But at the same time,
I think that's why it's hard for like the women to come forward as well, because especially from experience, you don't say something straight away. For many women, it's something you process over a long period of time, and then especially when someone is brave enough to start speaking out, you think, well, what have I been worried about? Because you wait that long, the police don't want to know. It happened ages ago, happened a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 months ago.
Yeah. It's like a chain reaction.
What they're all going to say the same thing. Why didn't you say it at the time? Why didn't you come forward when it happened? But it's not as easy as that. Like there's repercussions, there's psychological elements of it for that woman. There's a reason that they either haven't said anything, won't ever say anything, or have chosen to tell people when other people have decided to come forward. I speaking out enough is like hard enough for a woman. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's definitely women that, like you said, Toast, want that moment in the spotlight and tell a total lie to try and wreck somebody's life.
But it's the minority, though, the vast minority, like the huge minority.
So I wanted to quickly tell a story that's from my real life, and I will change the details ever so slightly. A gentleman I'm an acquaintance with, and this was involving an ex-girlfriend. And sorry, I'm just changing facts on the fly. But she alleged, a rape accusation against him, and this was very serious. And I'm not absolutely, I wasn't that close to it to know how it got this far, but it got far enough to go to court. And so they're there, and the people who are on, and I'll say in inverted commas, his side, as in who are much closer to him, couldn't understand why he had no representation, couldn't understand why he was so calm about it. We're all freaking out why he's doing it. I.e. no representation, that is. And the prosecution opens with her case, this rape accusation, and he simply enters into the court record the 2 flights of in and out of the country showing he wasn't there on the day of the accusation. It was a complete fabrication. It can be seen there in black and white. Now, wow. Here's the thing.
Rip.
Yeah, that is totally a part of the minority, as you say. And here's the problem with that.
Yeah.
Stories like that stand out are the ones people tell. It's the one I'm telling now. It's the one that's most in the forefront of my mind. And that's what makes it, that the people who are less well educated in this subject, dare I say, will think that, oh, actually, it does happen all the time. It doesn't. It is massively in the minority of the situations here.
Yeah. I mean, it's frustrating that people even talk about it in the same breath as the actual accusations and the actual offences themselves. As I say, Chapley said in chat, I don't know the source, but I know you, so I'm pretty sure that I can trust this stat. A 2% false report rate. It's such a false equivalency to even throw that in there is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yes. Even if I was accused of rape, okay, and it was a false accusation and it was proven false, and even if it destroyed my my career, all this sort of stuff, that's dreadful and it's going to affect me massively. But you know what? I've not been raped.
Yeah.
That is the plain fact of it. I've not had to go through that. And the false accusations, I don't even think harm the men as much as they harm those women that are sitting there thinking, I want to come out. I want to talk about what's happened to me. I want to talk about this, but I'm not going to now because I've seen what happened to this person, and they're just going to think fucking the same. And people do commit suicide over false accusations. Yeah, of course they do. But compared to and that's horrendous, but compared to the number of people that are raped and aren't reported, how many women have killed themselves because of rape as well? And nobody ever knows that that's the reason why. They maybe blame the other things in their life,
Short just put something that's quite prominent in there that for a woman especially, if something's happened to you, you do get that sense of shame, and there's a lot of confusion, and did I lead that person on? Is this my fault that this has happened? I can't say anything because I mean, I was part of the decision I was part of the reason that this happened, right? You question yourself, you question how it's going to affect you and your family, or your circle, that person's circle. Well, maybe it wasn't that bad. I don't want to ruin this guy's life over it, because a lot of it can be stalking, harassment, bad language, sending you inappropriate pictures. They haven't raped you, but that's psychologically just as disturbing. I mean,
it's always there.
You can't get away from it. It's messing with your head. That person shows up. You're in your own little world. You have no idea. That person shows up. You completely freeze. You have a panic attack. Something along those lines. It can affect you like that. So it's not just the whole physical attacking scenario. There's much more of it.
Yeah.
So one thing in regards to Twitch then is what people are trying to do in order to get, especially Twitch, to do more about it. And it's not just about streamers, is what we've spoken about. It's about those people in chat. Sorry guys, not you guys. You guys are fine, right?
Yeah.
You guys are popping, all right? Well, maybe not all of you. I know some of you are guildies of mine, and you guys are a bit dicey, but the rest of you are fine. The rest of you are grand, okay?
Yeah, they're all right. You'll see more.
But it's people that I lost my train of thought because of guildies. It's Twitch chat and how they treat not just female streamers but male streamers as well, and some of the trolling and some of the abuse that goes on there. And that was kind of what part of hashtag Twitch Blackout was about. Now, anyone that knows, basically Twitch Blackout was essentially a group of people that got together and said that they wanted people to stop streaming on Twitch for a day in order to protest against racial abuse and sexual abuse on Twitch. Now, one of the things that was badly done about this whole movement was the fact that it was done within a day or two. Also, it's the fact of deeming it like a boycott And I saw a lot of was people coming out with and saying, I've been silenced for too long. What the fuck are you asking me for to shut the fuck up again for a day? Now, that was the wrong move. You know, in my opinion, it should very much have been, let's all go and fucking stream on Facebook or YouTube for a day, you know, and talk about this. Or every single person come into Just Chatting and sit, and that's all we're talking about. I'm going to sit and I'm going to talk about the abuse that I receive on this platform and how that this company does nothing to help me. You know, show them that.
The focus was all wrong, wasn't it?
The focus was wrong. But the intentions were good. Now they've got things. The intention was good.
The pulse was there.
The focus was. It was wrong. It was. Yeah, definitely should have been planned better, and also it shouldn't have been pushing this silence mantra, because that's what the whole thing was about. The fact that we've had to be quiet.
Shouting out
we've
in
had to
it,
be
saying,
quiet.
I have been, as you say it, like I have been, you know, abused, and I do feel this sort of way on Twitch, and this Twitch doesn't help me, you know, like evidence of like getting in contact with them, like, you know, there's loads of stuff they could have done. I totally agree. When that was happening, I was a bit confused. I was like, I understand like the point is there, but it doesn't resolve anything after it. Like people are just going to stream again and it's going to be sort of forgotten, where like I feel like if there was people there talking about it, there's like VODs that can clip it, like there's always going to be like longer relevancy and people are still going to be talking about it, where I feel like, I don't know, especially that blackout thing, as you say, it was out in 2 days, and I don't think a lot of people did it. I think it was a small minority compared to like the whole of.
I chucked something up on my offline screen, but that was about it. I was just pissed off about the method thing. But it's what did Twitch do then? What does Twitch do in order to address this? Now, Emmett Shear, for those who don't know, Emmett Shear is the CEO of Twitch, and Emmett Shear is what's commonly known in my country as a wanker. That's pretty much. He is, a wanker, yeah. And that's a derogatory term. And essentially, Emmett Shear does fuck all for helping this. If you look up, I'd bring it up, but I think I fucked up the audio last time. Emmett Shear's Twitter, and essentially his response to this, you start reading it, you're going to fall asleep within 35 seconds because it's the most boring, PR-driven, business waffle piece of shit you've ever fucking read.
Literally.
It doesn't say anything.
One from the 23rd.
Yeah, it doesn't have any deliverables. It doesn't have any actions. It doesn't have anything. It's just the usual. I mean, I've not even got it up, but I could probably guess. It's like, we here at Twitter really want to create a safe and inclusive environment for all our creators, and in doing so, we've really been thinking hard about this back in the office. And what we're going to do is we're going to set forward a plan that you'll get in stages in order to really benefit every single one of us and make this a happier and friendlier place for every. Fuck off, you know. Just
The only thing you got was lessons that will be learned.
Yeah.
The other
It's what are you going to do?
The most unsincere apology ever.
What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? What are the consequences of you not doing it? And how are we going to measure that? We're not getting any of that at all. And now this isn't just for, this is for a streamer's benefit, but also the people that want to come and consume streamers' content, and we don't have that. He doesn't give a fuck. Twitch doesn't give a fuck. They don't, because they care about the bottom line.
Sad, like, because it's just going to keep happening if there's no measures in place. Like, I know I've heard about they've started permanently banning accounts and permanently banning people, but based on what? Like, there's no really way, like, to sort of mask it, is there? If you know what I mean? Like, if that happens on Twitch anyway. And if they don't do anything about it, as I say, it's just going to keep happening. So if people can get away with it, they're just going to keep doing it.
I mean, there's nothing like what the guys behind Twitch Blackout are looking for are things such as an example, IP bans. So if they've been banned or blocked from your channel, you can't just get a new Twitch account and just come back on. Also, if you're coming from that IP, you can't even view that content. Actually ban all that sort of, that's the sort of thing that they're looking for. Other things, do away with the option to be a chatter without a verified email address. Algorithms to prevent people from creating racist and harmful usernames. Equal enforcement of terms of service. Now, this is a big thing. You know, this is the affiliate show, right? We're all affiliates, nearly, and
Nearly.
sorry, Toasty. And
Tries and 2 viewers.
Oh.
the thing is,
Oh, you are to view Andy.
yes,
You two view Andy, yeah.
Two view Toasty.
I'm a 2 view Andy.
2 view Toasty. Where was it? Yeah, at the end of the day, they are. Everybody's like, poor Toasty, poor Toasty.
Literally. That's in
at the
chat,
end of
guys.
the- Twitch
That's
are
in chat.
always
That's in
going to
chat.
fuck us over before they fuck over one of their big streamers. Do you think, like, Asmongold is gonna, you know, if he done something, he'd get banned? A guy that rakes of 40,000 viewers,
Literally.
he'd have to do,
That's what-
he'd have to fucking go some, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Disrespect
That's what
got
I
banned,
get, 'cause-
and well, not for very fucking long, you know.
Well, the
Yeah.
comeback was crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was on the stream. Like,
Oh well, he loved that.
Sorry. Just educate me quickly. What was that ban about?
Dr. Disrespect. He was banned. When was it? Actually, I'm gonna find out when it was, because it was it last
was it when
year?
he was unfaithful and he came on and did that video and he cried
Yeah.
and stuff,
Yeah,
or was it?
No.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, was it something else?
No. It was that? I
2
was
years.
just thinking about that when it happened.
Oh,
Yeah, because he came
Oh,
out. He
yeah,
came
he
out. He
basically
took
came on,
his
like-
glasses off and shit, didn't he?
yeah, he didn't have his wig on. He was just his
Yeah,
normal
yeah,
self,
yeah.
like with a white screen behind him, and he was basically saying he was being unfaithful at an event
That was
against
it. It
his
was at
wife, and he was
E3.
crying and stuff on.
It was at E3.
Yeah, it was at E3.
Yeah.
And then basically he was off for like, I think it was like a month, I think, or a little bit longer. And then he came back, but when he came back, his stream had like what, 200,000 views,
Yeah.
something like that, after his first stream back.
Whoa.
So, and he had like his wife on his shoulders with like a knife against his throat, because it's part of his character and stuff like that. You know, it's all like, you know, like Mrs. Disrespect and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, it was. But some people like maybe like a PR move. Imagine if you, I know you're getting loads of money anyway, but
yeah.
you know, come back and you're getting like triple the views for at least a week.
Oh, that's great. I mean,
Yeah.
guys, feel free to report me if you like, and if I get a wee 24-hour ban, that'll be popping. And I'd love to see you all back there a day or two later.
I might get some free viewers. Do it to me.
What I hate is when these allegations have happened and the apologies are just ridiculous. Like the Say No to Rage, the Lono guy that I was talking about, that was at that event in Florida. He put out an apology video on YouTube with his wife sat next to him, reading from a piece of paper with a sort of half choked up sounding like oh my God, like kind of crap, like halfway, and then suddenly changed halfway through to, but it's really not my fault. I was abused when I was 16 and I'm in therapy, and just mentioned therapy like 5 million times. And it was just so unsincere, like reading from this piece of paper. Like, I don't know. It just seemed really horrible. And even he thought so, because that video is no longer there. It's been deleted. I think you can find it on YouTube from other people that have recorded it. But he got rid of that video. He deleted it. And then did another one that's like 10 minutes long, just him, no script, but still with all this therapy. And I wasn't, my mental state wasn't right at the time. And to me, as a woman, if you've been abused by that person or harassed by that person or whatever, but this doesn't matter. I mean, he should have his time to say how he was and what he's been through, but that wasn't the time to do it, in my opinion. It should have been, that's not excusable. I apologize. This is what I'm going to do. But it was basically, I'm not going to stream for a little while, and you know, my mental health, I needed therapy and stuff, and I'm in therapy now. So like that's how I took it, which is just me. That's just my opinion. But for me, that didn't seem sincere enough for the things that had been said.
The apologies,
Yeah,
the
from the
apologies can
victim.
be just as bad as the sort of rebuttals, if you like.
Yeah. Make
right,
it worse,
right.
technically.
Chat, especially WoW people in chat. Who's heard of Swifty?
Me.
Who's heard of Swifty? Who knows Swifty?
McLeod's like, no.
I have.
What?
I have.
OG Wildflower.
Yeah, Keg
OG
W. Yeah,
Wildflower.
we know Swifty. Swifty was a
Heck, brilliant.
dickbag. Swifty was
Dick
a
bag.
proper dickbag.
Is this like? Is this true? True.
Yeah, Swifty
Like,
was
is
a
this
proper
like a
dickbag.
good
Now,
source?
Swifty, back in sort of class WoW, so years and years ago, Swifty was a very famous warrior, popping off with all his one-shot macros and all sorts of stuff. He was pretty famous back in the day, and then when Classic came back, that's really when he sort of came back again and had a bit of a revival. So much so that WoW actually put an NPC in the game for him. Right?
Wow.
He actually
Nice.
has a character in the game.
That's
Wow.
quite impressive.
Except
That's really cool.
not since a couple of days ago. That's
Oh,
been
shit.
removed. There are allegations against
Like,
Swifty about. Well, there's one of them here, a streamer house. You know those cool streamer houses that always go well. And essentially, one of the allegations is that he had spy cameras in rooms. Okay, he essentially ghosted somebody. So if you don't know what that means, basically he's blindfolding them and they're having sex with somebody that they don't know they're having sex with and whatnot. His girlfriend at the time thought she was having sex with him, but really it was his friend that he'd set up while he had his penis in her mouth.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, it's full blown fucking shit, right? It's proper mental stuff. Saying to her that she is forcing her to the gym and forcing her to her fingers down her own throat so she can throw up, so she can be skinnier. Yeah, all this sort of stuff. And to go back to my original point, this went on, you know, the allegation and the list of things that happened to this poor girl and the supporting evidence was vast. And he came back with a post that basically just read, "Nah, it wasn't me. Nah, didn't do it. Didn't do it, and I hope you all forgive me."
And that's the sad thing, though, isn't it? Because I mean, not the sad thing for that case because there was a lot of evidence, but for a lot of women,
She's still getting slated.
it's you and
by
that
the way.
guy.
She's still
like,
getting slated.
Yeah.
what?
And that's sadly why a lot of people don't come forward, though, isn't it? Because they're going to be like, well, this guy's so huge. How is my tiny voice going to, you know, he's got so many followers and fans and people that would do anything for him. Why would they're not going to believe, you know? It makes me
It's
sad.
like you're doing it for views.
That's right.
What do you mean? Like just trying to get attention. Like it just goes straight back to that. Oh, Swifty would never do that. Swifty could never do that. Why would he do that? But they only see his Twitch persona. They only see his online persona.
Who's a creepy bastard anyway? Even his Twitch persona's a creepy bastard. You watch Swifty for 5 minutes and he's a creepy fuck.
Yes, the one
You're like, what are you up to, you strange little bastard? Get off my screen. He's weird. He is weird. Now, people are weird, especially in gaming. There's a lot of weird people. I'm probably a weird person. McLeod's definitely a weird person. But Swift, but it doesn't mean that this is the thing. Like, folk have actually said this about Josh. Okay, going back to Josh for a second. And it was a shame because anybody that knows Mike Lamb, Preach, he came out today with a statement. He's a prominent World of Warcraft YouTuber, and he knows he's met Josh, and he came out and said that he's no longer going to be doing work with Method, and people have said to him, "Well, how didn't you know? If you thought Josh was odd, how didn't you know?" His exact words were, "Well, I work in the games industry. Especially with World of Warcraft, there are a lot of weird people. You know, it's not unusual to come across weird people. And just because you come across a weird person doesn't mean that you suddenly go, well, he's a beast. You know, and so nobody can. You shouldn't blame anybody else for not figuring it out. You know, that's something that you shouldn't do. You shouldn't don't go trolling Method as an organization. Because you don't know who knew and you don't know who didn't. So there's no point. I've seen a lot of this like hashtag Method Way, hashtag Method Knew, you know, all this sort of stuff. You don't know who was involved, who wasn't, and it's not fair for the people that weren't. Method is a big organization and they don't deserve some of the shit that is coming their way just now. I'm not weird. Yes,
well, as you say, it's the full Method that's been tainted. Everyone in Method, they're like, oh, you're part of Method. Like, want that. Didn't Josh do this? And I always go, it's always been tainted. Like they've sort of lost the status. They could potentially crawl it back. Obviously, if I'm assuming Josh is not in it anymore.
No,
but it's just a whole.
He's not the only one.
Just for one person's action, it's just he's not the only one.
Nope.
What?
So
right, okay.
Method have two founders, Scott, and a guy called Sasha. And Sasha has been, so they're both sort of co-CEOs. I know Sasha's a co-CEO. I'm fairly sure Scott is also co-CEO. Fairly sure. But anyway, Sasha, he has been accused of essentially predatory behaviour. He put up a girl in a flat that they had in LA, I think, or it might be LA. It's certainly in America, certainly West Coast America. I can't remember exactly where. Well, you'd have to look that up. And essentially, she was quite shy, quite anxious. She didn't want to go out, but he apparently kept forcing her, saying that she'll not get anywhere in the games industry. She'll not be able to stream for Method anymore. She'll not be able to do this unless these things happened. Now, these accusations were just as fucking credible as the ones against Josh, but Sasha's been suspended unpaid. Is it LA? Now, I don't understand how he can be suspended unpaid since he's fucking co-owner. That seems like fucking bullshit to me, because you still half own the business, you absolute dick. But it means that other people knew stuff was going on, and if Sasha had to have a vote at some point on should we kick Josh out back in the day when Josh was trying to beast a 14-year-old, Sasha's probably like, man, you got her number, rather than fucking kicking her out.
Pass it around. Well, as you say, higher people must know. If it's been going on for years and it's years too late, what did they do to cover it? Right, all right, well, this never gets out. We don't want to take the name of Method. We'll keep doing what you're doing. We'll bury it. And then XYZ, the whole, Jimmy Savile situation in the BBC and all that was covered up for how many decades? I know it's on a bigger scale, but it happens. When there's money and you've got power, you can make things disappear. And I feel like that happens a lot. So I think someone mentioned earlier about R. Kelly in the music industry and the singer from, Ian Watson from Lost Prophets.
I've been Ian Watkins, trying to think of another musician that I know this exact same sort of accusations. It's been bugging me. I can't think of their name. But yeah, it was almost verbatim. These sort of accusations, or pressuring for nudes. I say 16 or I say 15 and they say it doesn't matter. Do you know who I am? It's like a broken record.
Do you know what? I was just looking for something because
it's a lot of similarities.
What Chapley said in the chat there about HR, and you're right. I was just looking because literally they might have removed this. It was on the Method channel, but I am scrolling through quite quickly, so I might have missed it. But I shit you not, a couple of days before this came out, they were advertising for an HR partner, an HR business partner. So it was really? Hi boys, we got some work for these guys, right? we got some shit that we need to deal with.
Wouldn't be all first on their agenda at the thing.
First day, Jesus.
Yeah, first day. Right, so we're a global brand that's going downhill, and we really need somebody to actually help us craft how we're going to get the fuck out of this mess. While, if you've seen some of the other guilds, I know it's you shouldn't laugh at it, but my God, have the memes been strong. The meme game has been strong against Twitter.
I can imagine.
I believe.
It has been fucking strong. It's just, these guys have their dream job. They've got most people's dream job. Now, if you ask, and this is backed up with stats, if you ask, it's the majority of 8 to 10-year-olds, or 7 to 11-year-olds, something, I can't remember, around about that area. Their dream job isn't fucking fireman, astronaut, footballer, stuff like that anymore. It's a YouTuber. It's content.
Yeah.
They all want to be fucking YouTubers.
So different now.
My nephew, he wants to be a YouTuber. This is what we want. These guys have got their dream job. Some of them are getting paid a lot of money. Now, incidentally, Method, not so much, right? WoW isn't the biggest when it comes to paying them. They get a fair wage, but they're not Ninja, right? They're not getting 30 million quid for, a year's work. That's not happening. But still get a good wage, and they still have their favorite,
Yeah.
the job that they want, and
Literally.
That's the thing, though. It's about like if you come into loads of money, you say you're not going to be any different. Most people are different when they get more money, even when you've come from no money, or you've been relatively on the shorter side of cash. You weren't totally poor, but you suddenly come into this massive amount of money. A lot of people would like to think, I wouldn't change. There's no way I'd change. But it's been proven time and time again that people
I wouldn't become a rapist.
Ditch long-term friends. No, but I'm saying it's that added power thing. Like you ditch friends, you ditch certain morals and things because you think, well, that just doesn't matter anymore. Like people don't think about being polite anymore because they don't need to be. Someone's going to open that door for them because they're important. Like it's that different mindset.
So learning from the crowd you're now running with as well. Especially if that's baked in.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I think they don't realise
I've won
how
my
much
millions now.
they...
I wonder if that 13-year-old will suck my dick. It's
you're
either that sort of human being or you're not. And that comes from, and you can go right into a nature versus nurture debate if you want, but really it's obviously a bit of both. It's actually no. I think it comes out of one thing for a lot of these guys, and that's power. I think a lot of them, we go back to being nerdy kids. I think a lot of them, if you ask them, I don't have any figures or stats on this, but I bet you a lot of them were maybe picked on a bit at school. Maybe picked on a little bit at school, and maybe they didn't have the best time, and now they're out there, now they're the big man, and now they can feel powerful. Now they're the one that can make your dreams come true. Do you want me? I'll host you for 10,000 views, all this sort of stuff. All you need to do is
that's what I was sort of saying about the cash. It's not particularly the money, but like it's the fame aspect of it. It's a really hot girl that would never ever look at me now will, but only because she wants something, like not only because she wants something out of it, but a lot of the time when it's that sort of situation, they want their bit, and I think they abuse that power of, I'm going to give you a follow and you'll be amazed by it. So if I do this for you, I'm going to get that out of it. It's the power thing.
You're right, Bane.
Definitely.
Yeah, it is. It's the only, and you've got to think, as heinous as some of this stuff is, you kind of got to think there's got to be a logic in somebody's brain at some point, right? They've got to be thinking something.
Yeah.
And you read some of the stuff from Josh, and guys, for those of you that are raiders and understand why raiding and what it takes, man, the dude's boasting about being top HBS on Kill Jaden. I mean, come on. It's this is the sort of nerdy stuff that people are boasting about, and people are like, oh my god, that's amazing. That's
really?
That's great. Yeah, I want to do this for you. Now, here's a controversial thing right here. If I was mega awesome streamer YouTuber, and I was, this is hypothetical by the way. This is hypothetical right now. Disclaimer: hypothetical, and I'm a single 22-year-old streamer that happens to have tens of thousands. If a girl that is of, right. Disclaimer: if
someone clip this megalomaniac quick.
If there's a girl that is of a similar age and whatnot, comes up to me and says, "I'll fuck you if you give me a host."
Ooh.
Now, here's the question.
Go on then. No.
Would you? Now, I know that sounds rude, but you say no and say no, right? Now, the thing is, if a girl is approaching you, okay, and saying that, and she's similar age to you, she's offering something. Now, it might be prostitution, and if it is, I'm really sorry, and I'd never break the law. But otherwise, if she's approaching you, and you've not made any advance to her, and you've not done that, I actually don't see what's wrong with that. Now, if it's the other way around,
she's come to you.
If it's the other way around, you're fucking Harvey Weinstein, right?
Yeah.
If you're just like, hey, Toasty, no, look at the camera, Toasty, look at the motherfucking camera, look at the camera, right?
Oh my god.
Suck my dick and I'll make you famous. That's wrong, right?
Okay.
That's wrong.
Yeah,
Well, that's what I was saying about the women being pressured into climbing up in their job, you know, and having to sleep with someone high up. When certain people have power like that, and you know, women are made to feel like there's just no way you're going to do it alone. Like, what have you got? There's no wonder it happens. It is just abuse. There's no other word for it.
You know, and it's what I said. It goes back to that informed consent, isn't it? You know, that's kind of the point I was making. If you've got two consenting adults of similar, you know, it doesn't mean for their similar ages, appropriate ages, that know what they're doing, know what they're getting into, are emotionally intelligent enough to make the right decisions. Do what the fuck you like, you know? As I say, go and sort of wank each other off to Poirot for all I care. I don't give a shit, right? But it's when it comes down to, you know, age, power struggles, emotional intelligence, informed consent, that's when it's fucking ridiculous, and it takes the piss out of other people that are trying to do something in the industry and trying to help out.
Yeah.
It devalues what we're trying to do.
Just to touch on, Banefire's just said, why is it always women for you? These things happen to men as well. I'm well aware of that. Women can be super manipulative, greedy. We're just as bad in a lot of ways, but the reason we're focusing mainly on women is because of these allegations that's come out. So I'm not dismissing that women have their ways and psychologically and physically harm men as well. It happens, definitely.
Yeah.
It happens in different ways, though.
Yeah.
You know, you've got, you know, my girlfriend made a fucking great. We had a chat about this earlier, and she mentioned that on a night out or a date or something like that, a man and a woman should have very, very different concerns, I think is what she said. And if for example, a girl, you know, 99% of women, that if they were to come on to me forcefully, I can resist that. I can stop that. I can, you know, physically. Okay, yep. I've got the ability to do that because we could get into the whole, are men stronger than women? You know, all that sort of stuff. That's not the point. But women, when they're out, a lot of the time they think, that man could rape me. That man could kill me. That man has the ability to do so, and it's in the ball's in his fucking court. And I might have, there might be nothing I can fucking do about it. And the fact is, yes, it's men as well. Of course it is. But
of course, yeah.
All these allegations that we're looking at, it's all on women.
Especially when it's like one-on-one time. I mean, like, really basic caveman style-y. It's drilled into your body to be fearful. Not fearful of men, but like you're aware that they're stronger than you, and you know that's not 100%. That's just generally, because there are women that are like badass strong and can kick any man's ass. Like,
well, it's a spectrum.
I don't dispute that. But as a general term, you know, women do have that. I agree.
But on Twitch, it's guilty until proven
it's
innocent.
Society.
That's what we've said from but they're guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, that's what I said before. It is sort of like, you know, guilty until proven innocent. It should be the other way around, obviously. But it's just the way the platform is, and I think since, especially when you say with like the women. Yes, I was literally about to say that. Yes, society. It's like being drilled into us that, you know, the male does this and the male has the power, and it's all this sort of stuff. But I feel like recently this society and people's views have been changing very much compared to, like you say, the 80s and the 90s. Obviously, it was totally different compared to now. But especially these allegations.
We didn't have these. Sorry, man.
Well, exactly.
We didn't have a court by Facebook
or nothing.
Yeah, we didn't have a court by Facebook.
Yeah, there was
we didn't have all this. If there was an allegation, it went to the police, it went to court, and 300, 400 years of the British judicial system took over. Now it's fucking dickhead Saruk and like nice mustache Toasty that are deciding whether or not somebody should go to jail. You know, it's you know, I'm exaggerating, but it's. Well, stats don't lie. 20% of women have experienced some type of sexual assault versus 4% of men. And do you know what surprises me about that stat? Is the 20%.
No, I thought that'd be higher.
It's the 20%. Again, while I was having this conversation,
But that's 20% recorded.
Yeah, 20% recorded. You know, while I was having the same conversation with my girlfriend today, and I was saying that I don't think I've spoken to a woman, and I've spoken to a woman about this, and they've not said, "Oh yeah, I've had a guy that's grabbed my arse," or "I've had a guy that's made me feel uncomfortable," even if it was driving past in a van and wolf whistling at me and then shouting something, but I couldn't quite hear them. They maybe went away and you never saw them again, but at that point she's thinking, are they coming back? Where are they? Where have they gone? What have they done? Because it's what's at the end of the day, she's powerless to do anything. What's she going to do? It's two guys in a van. She's in the back of the van. She's gone. You know?
Yeah.
She's gone full-blown Maddie. That's the end of it. You know? It's ridiculous.
That's the type of harassment that is like the more psychological side, though, like we were talking about, because it's like the dick pic thing. Why the hell is a dick pic thing a thing? Like, unless I ask you for a dick pic, why are you sending me a picture of your penis? Like, I don't understand
Especially
that.
it's just
but
like
for a lot of women,
messenger.
like you're just going about your day, and then randomly you get a picture of some guy's penis. Like, that's just. I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
That's like abuse to my eyes. Like, don't do that. Why are you doing that?
I mean, Tesco's down the fruit aisle, bro. I don't want to be seeing it.
I know, but it's like, it's something that we didn't ask for. Like, and, you know, I guess women can do that too. Just send a nude to a guy randomly. Somehow, some part of me thinks that that's not going to be as offensive as a man doing it to a woman.
Yeah,
but
literally.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But
it's again, it doesn't matter what sex it is, what gender,
it's
what.
The fact that you didn't ask for it. I didn't ask you to send me that.
Solicited.
I didn't want to see that. So why are you sending it to me?
What I don't get,
and it's, you know,
is what's the end goal there? Surely it's not. I'm not sending you a dick pic, Ellie, right? And thinking, yes. She's definitely going to fancy me now.
That's what I mean. I don't get out of it.
Or is it just
what do you think I'm going to do? Open it, see that flaccid penis, and then go, "Oh, that's the man of my life." Like what?
Oh, my dream.
Yeah,
what do you think I'm gonna do with that?
It's the cock I've been waiting for.
So it doesn't look any.
2 inches of my dreams.
Yeah,
The whole 2 inches.
They can't even take the picture properly. You know, it's the perspective's all wrong. You know, they've got the angles fucked up. The lighting's bollocks.
Literally.
Bollocks. See. Oh my god! But yeah, I mean, what's the end game there? Is it just the shock?
I don't know if it's either. It could be. I don't know if it's either like boasting, saying, "Look at this, look at my member, look how big he is," or if it is literally in their fantasy and in their mind is they're going to turn around and be like, "Here's my address, come meet me now," like sort of thing. I just the mentality's not there.
That's why
like,
I call it like a form of abuse, because it is. I didn't ask you for that. Same as, you know, someone coming up and grabbing your ass or whatever. I didn't ask you to do that. I didn't give you my permission to do that, and that is something graphic or personal invasion of space. This is like a big blowing up of the scenario, but I'm just saying, if you were really sat in your head thinking about it, you're like, that's just a violation of my personal space and me. I don't want to see that. I didn't ask to see it. I don't want you to reach out and touch me. Like, this is my personal
it's my bubble. Get out of it.
It's my bubble. Like, you wouldn't do it. It's like the whole, I keep going back to the say no to rage Lono guy, because it really has annoyed me, because he didn't.
Was he the hair one, just quickly?
Basically, what? Sorry.
Sorry, was he the reaching out to the hair?
Was he not a hair sniffer?
He touched her hair.
Or touched the hair.
Yeah. So what happened apparently was they were sat at dinner together, and like she was with all the friends and everything. She'd known him, and they were talking about haircuts and stuff. And her hair was pushed back over her shoulders, and he was sat to her left, I believe. He had to reach over and like touch the back of her neck and pull all of her hair forward, and was like touching her hair and stuff. And she sort of moved away and stuff, like you would. I mean, you know,
that's not appropriate.
People that don't know me and Toast and McLeod have known each other for
too long.
Since we were 12, like super long.
It's gone too long. Okay,
I'd be weirded out if you guys touched my hair like randomly,
Exactly.
and I've known you that long. It's just weird. And then his excuse was he was started to touch his own hair and say, "Oh, sorry, I you know, I sort of get handsy when I'm high," or some crap. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, that's not an excuse, and it's just weird. And it's like, it's okay to be weird, but not when you invade somebody's space.
Well, yeah,
It just makes
he
you
was-
feel
he was talking
weird.
about the
Yeah.
fact that he was. I'm
I
sorry
mean-
for staring, but I was stoned. I didn't know what was in the vape, and then suddenly I was staring at you and touching your hair. Now, I've been stoned before, right?
It's like it was, it's like
I just want to
way
eat all the
she-
wagon
The way
wheels.
she writes it,
You know?
yeah, I get the munchies.
The bunches, yeah.
But I mean, I've read this lady's recollection of everything, and it seems like over time and over these few events, he's just gone a bit further and a bit further and a bit further to see how far he can go, and then still keeps putting the whole I had too many beers or I was really high, I don't know what happened kind of thing. I mean, there was a scenario she was sat on the bus with him, and he was like rubbing up on her shoulder and stuff, and she made it very clear like to move away, and she said, you know, you got your own seat, dude, like and you know, it kept pushing shoulders, and she was getting annoyed, and she was like, you know, you keep your hands to yourself. And he starts rubbing his pants, saying, I'm really sorry, it's just when I'm high, like I'm sexually awakened or something. And she was like,
Sexually
right, well,
awakened.
keep your hands to yourself, keep yourself to yourself. And his response was, well, I'm just letting you know beforehand.
case.
And she sort of cut him off, and you know, because she was mad, which anybody would be. But he was almost sort of saying, I'm apologizing in advance for what I'm about to do next. Like, that's really quite threatening if you're sat right next to somebody. You're on
Yeah,
the bus.
like,
You
jeez.
can't get off the bus. I just don't,
I think
He's basically saying I'm
you know,
a lot of
going to
us-
give a good scene too, like, without your consent.
Yeah.
Like,
sort of
You might as well have. Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
outraged by things like that, and I can, and quite rightly so. However, I think I was trying to think about it today because I was like, this can't happen as much as it does, right? Or as much as people say should, you know? Surely not. And then I sort of thought about it, and I was like, well, that's because, well, I don't feel that I do that, and I don't surround myself with people that do that, so therefore,
Yeah.
I never see that. You know,
yeah, that's true.
so you kind
well, I
of
think I was it you I was saying to McLeod about the fact that, like, you know, it's hard for everybody, because how are you supposed to fall in love with someone and get in a relationship unless you try it on, you know, unless you flirt a bit and you see if they like you and feel the same way. So it's that, like we were talking about before, it's that social
Yeah, coming
thing
back
of,
yeah.
am I coming across creepy? Do I know I'm coming across creepy? And the other person sort of taking to it and giving you more signals or a misinterpretation of signals. There's a lot of confusion about it, and
That's
I think that if there
Yeah,
was more,
pounded if all you've done
yeah,
in essence is be behind a screen and been really good at a game.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you're thinking like, you know, she might want me to push a bit harder. She's just playing shy, kind of thing.
It's hard to get, you know. No, there's hard to get, and there's no, you know, and it's,
Yeah.
Exactly.
and
like,
for us
you sort
anyway, as we perceive it, it's not hard to tell the difference.
Hmm.
Well, again, that
It shouldn't
comes to
be.
your education and you growing up with the fact that,
Yeah.
you know, I grew up, I remember there was, when I was, how old was I? I can't remember, but I must have been like 12 or something. And there was a girl, her name was, I will not give her name, her name was Gemma, right? Her name was Gemma. And I remember giving a note to my friend and saying, pass this to Gemma. And it was basically like, it was literally a note that said, these are my top 10 girls. And I had Gemma as all 10, right?
Oh, what a G.
And smooth as fuck, right?
Boom.
and Gemma wrote a note back and said, no. Just no.
I could hate your heartbreak.
And I'm like,
Like,
motherfucker.
Yeah.
But
It's
what,
just
what
shit,
it does is
isn't it?
teaches you. It's like, you know, how people say that kids should have pets so they know how to experience loss at an early age. You know, if a dog dies, you know how to experience how to deal with it. You learn how to deal with knockbacks and rejection and that fear of it.
Yeah.
And that's all natural. But these incel
But I mean,
cunts don't have that, and they haven't. And this is the internet has done wonderful things. It's let us speak right now. It's let us play some of these amazing games that we enjoy. But what it's also done is let these little wank stains of society get together and suddenly go, there's somebody else that's a bell end, right?
Yeah, literally.
This
Well,
is
like,
cool, right? Or I have somebody here that's just like me. Rather than before, I would much rather some of these pricks fade away into the shadows and think, oh, this isn't acceptable. I can't be around anybody. But oh no, the internet's made it cool. It's like the term incel. Do any of you guys know who came up with that? We've not researched this beforehand.
Mm-mm.
So the term
No, I've not.
incel was originally actually coined by a woman.
Okay.
Yeah, it was called incel. Now I heard this on another podcast. It was called incel. What's the website? There's a website. It's incel.something, and it was basically a forum that a woman set up, an American woman set up, in order to be a support group for people that struggle to find dates and communicate with the opposite sex. Now, she didn't come up. The name wasn't incel at the time. It was oh god, I can't even remember it now. If I'd done research on it, I'd have known. But it was something slightly different. But they didn't like the sound of it, so they came up with involuntarily celibate. Hence incel. Okay?
Incel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And since then, she then had this forum, this online forum, back when forums were a thing. Hands up if you remember when forums were a thing.
Way back.
Right?
Way back.
Boomer
then.
forums. And from there, this grew and grew and grew, and eventually she left the community. But what happened to that community was it warped and it twisted into a community where men feel that women are nothing but objects. They feel that some of them even state that the government should provide prostitutes for virgins so that they can at least have sex because it should be a right. There have
right.
Yep. That women
Wow.
are property, right? There's all sorts of jargon that goes with it. That whereas there have been terrorist attacks that have been done by incels. That have been incel driven. Now I'm going to Google it right now because I can't remember specifically which one, and I don't want to say the wrong one.
Mhm.
It was. I think
That's
it was.
crazy, though.
I think it was Toronto. Yeah, it was right. Yeah, Toronto. 17-year-old. A Toronto teenager became the first Canadian ever charged with carrying out an incel-inspired terror attack. You know,
That's just a community of people on a forum, and they can organise terrorist attacks. And
no, they didn't organise a terrorist attack. What happened was that it was inspired by this group, by this
Oh,
group of people
right.
that felt that for some reason they have this right to sex. You know, that women should be forced to have sex, that rape, I think there was certain ways, and it's even like this in some states. If there's any Americans in the chat, you will probably correct me. There are certain states that informed consent isn't a fucking thing. If she hasn't said no, you can do what you like. The world's still fucked up, you know. That's the moral of the story is. You run over a woman. Yeah, that's
what
it.
means
Yeah,
society
as
needs to change. It needs to change on a
ran over a woman
bigger scale. But
yeah, he ran over a woman with a van because somebody turned him down. Essentially,
Someone turned it down. Jesus.
Well, this is what I was saying about the marginalization of women in video games and stuff. I mean, it's not just video games, but even movies and things like that. Like just in general, social media and other types of media in general. Don't portray women right at all.
Suggestions for improvement.
It's still not being portrayed right.
That's a great point, Maze. Suggestions for improvement. I think we mentioned it briefly. That it's certainly education, and I mean not just basic sex education, proper education on relationships with members of the opposite sex and the same sex, because we have people that are various different sexualities. That's got to be taught out in all areas, and not just one class a year or at some point. They've really got to push that and make it the norm and make it okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like like our generation and sort of lower, especially when we get to points where
we become parents and start teaching our children. Yeah,
teaching it, and it's gonna eventually it'll get to a point where it will be the norm. But how long and what changes? Like, what changes can we do to try and make that happen? Like, I feel like now, maybe in the next 20, 30 years, it might be a point where everything's accepted. There's not anymore, but.
I think the biggest thing, even with the whole, the Black Lives Matter thing that's been happening recently as well, like resurfaced, sorry, is speaking out. Like if you see anyone, but I'm saying in these circumstances, like a female, being heckled on by guys or whatever, you be that guy that says, don't do
even
that,
in
dude.
private, like even if
she might not want you to say that to her, like
Call
be that guy.
Call the fucker out, right? If lads, if you're out with your lad pals when we're allowed to go out, whenever that may be, and you hear a snide comment or you see something, call the fucker out. That's what we need to start doing. We need to start holding each other accountable. Because it's ingrained in us.
Like
it's a
culture. Lads being lads thing, isn't
it's
it?
An ingrained culture.
Yeah.
When like,
it's how far you take that.
Yeah. I mean, am I sweetness and light and absolutely innocent? Am I bollocks when it comes to banter and stuff? In fact, no, fuck it. I'm not going to call it banter because that's what that's the excuse a lot of people make. Mm-hmm. I have 100%. Have I said people to friends and stuff? I'm like, oh, she's nice, or oh yeah, check her ass out. Like probably I can't remember any specific examples, but you know what? I probably did, and I was definitely wrong.
Yeah, but I think. In a way, it's not wrong to sort of point out that somebody's attractive or you're attracted to them. Like, gosh, he looks nice. Like, she's all right. It's what you do and say to that person in particular. It's how far you go. If it's like you have no idea what I'm gonna fucking do to you, like that's too far.
Dr. Lucy
have a gauge. Like, it's okay to say somebody's attractive. I think it's not. It's just. I don't get offended if someone says you look really nice, you look beautiful today, or whatever. I'm gonna be like, oh great, thank you. Then it's like, right, well, so you're gonna chat to me later then, so we're gonna have a conversation. I'm like, what do you mean?
Well, I bought
if I get the feeling that they're expecting something, I've bought you a drink. Oh, thank you so much. Yes. That's really sweet of you, actually. Are you gonna come and have a dance with me then? Oh, well, not really. I'm gonna hang with my girls for a bit. Like, oh right, well, but I just bought you a drink. What do you mean?
Oh,
I bought you a drink, and I'm like, you didn't buy me a dance. You bought me a drink. Fuck off. Just know your intentions. As a guy, I think especially, obviously, because we're wired differently. That's just that we are different, men and women. So I know that probably tips a lot of people off, and everybody goes, "We're all the same." We're not. It's okay to say we're not.
But we're the same in some points where some women and some guys, some women do want to go out to a pub and they want to fuck, right? They want to fight a guy definitely. And they want to fuck. And same with guys. It's what we spoke about. That happens, but it's about learning to read the room.
It's changing your perspective on things. Like, but if you were that type of guy where you see a girl dressed in next to nothing in a club, don't presume she wants to be fucked. Like, just you can call her out as being attractive. You can try and talk to her, but I think it's that presumption as well, especially with, like you said, women should be able to dress however they want and wear whatever they want, and a lot of women struggle with that and don't want to wear certain things because they don't want to give off the wrong idea. You shouldn't be worried about giving off the wrong idea. You should just ask if that's what you want or not.
Yeah. Well, I feel like guys like think it's like, oh, I'm being confident and she wants me to be like this because I'm a strong guy and that's what she wants and stuff like that. And it's like, well, no, like you don't know this girl. You don't just go over and start like, like just being horrible. Like,
to an extent. I mean, I'm not saying being horrible, but you still get, if you're vibing with somebody, right? You still know that they'll give you signals of what they like and what they don't like in terms of chat and banter, everything that goes with it. Whether they want to have a deep and meaningful chat here, where they're just being a bit cheeky to you, like, oh, I'd like you, but you're mauling a bit. It's that sort of, surely, or you should know. And we need to make sure that
that's the thing. It's those social cues, isn't it? And if, like you said, if these chaps have been brought upon games and they haven't had that social interaction with real people in real life situations, they are going to struggle like that, and it's not an excuse at all, but they do need to be educated in some way. Like, how are we going to do that? It's going to be parents having to do it, and the hierarchy, things are going to be like bad behaviors are going to be passed down.
And
that
some
needs to
parents are
stop.
just
So
shit.
what else are you going to do then?
Yeah,
School's
yeah.
a really
So-
good option.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is I think we're too frightened sometimes to say that parents are just shit. You know, I come from I've done many jobs, but one of them is, you know, working in mental health. And sometimes, you know, you've spoken to kids or young adults, and you see their history, you go through it, and you think, your parents were just fucking bullshit at this. You know, and I'm not saying that parenting's easy, right?
No,
You know,
of course not.
the person
Yeah,
that
so they don't
one
ask for
of the people that I
Like,
respect
just
and
get on
I
with it.
adore most in my fucking life is my mother and my sister, for what my sister's doing with her kids and what my mum managed to do with this prick. But at the end of the day, you know, you've got a responsibility. You know, you've got a responsibility to raise, not just drag a child up, but raise a child in a socially responsible manner. You know, and
Right
and
morals.
I think we're far too soft sometimes on the way on parenting and what we allow from
Yeah.
parents.
And it's hard because kids are like sponges. So the parents will say something, and I'll have a certain opinion on women or a certain opinion on race, and
You're
the kids are
welcome,
like,
sir.
"Well, if mum and dad think it, it must be true." You know, it's my mum and dad. Like, they feed me, they look after me, they provide a house. Like, they are my world. So if they say it, then it must be true. Like, I've come from a very sort of background, very much like that with my stepdad, and he's still very much like it now. But as I've sort of become a man and grown up, I'm like, no, well, your views are wrong. Like, they're totally wrong. Like, just because they're that way doesn't mean they're that person, like, or they're that
But
society.
then maybe
like,
if
they're
it was
gonna do that.
introduced in schools, would that help you earlier on? Do you know what I mean? Like, well, if
Exactly,
the parents
yeah.
aren't going to do it. I
Like-
mean, McLeod, you've come from a teaching background.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure you'd be able to level on that one. But
I mean, Dr. Lucy just made a good point, because I presume you're a teacher or in some sort of educational
I'm also going
background.
to assume UK education.
Dr.
as well.
Lucy
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
I believe.
And you made a great point in terms of if some kids are like sponges and they will just believe if their parents have certain views. Now, I think the fact is you're entitled to your own opinions on things, but you're certainly not fucking entitled to your own facts. And some parents are just factually incorrect. You know, you've got some people, especially in the States, that it's all about evolution and fucking bullshit, you know, and it's like, I am not dissing somebody's religion, but, you know, fuck it, yeah. At the end of the day, there's reality and then there's fairy stories, okay? As, what was it? Ricky Gervais turned around and he said, if you took all the science books and you burnt them, and if you took all the religious texts and you burnt them, okay? We started again. In 2,000 years, all the science books would be exactly the same, and all the religious books would be totally different. Why? Because the science was right, and the science was the same, and it was provable, and it was repeatable. The religious books were made up based on humanity and humans that didn't understand the world yet, so humans need to understand something. They need to put something into perspective, and that's what they've done. And the fact that we've got parents that are still not believing that are now raising kids in that sort of way, that are leading to these sorts of situations right now, they need to be held accountable for that.
Yeah. It's true. It's hard. As you say, it's a touchy subject.
It's hard that, because Dr. Lucy's just mentioned about like parents coming from different cultural backgrounds and things, like their culture is completely different to like a Western culture. But I mean, even our Western culture was completely different however many years ago.
But surely it doesn't matter what culture you come from, that you can still believe in common decency to other people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Even if you
treating
don't.
of women is different in different
And that's
cultures.
wrong, and
I
it
can
doesn't
vouch for that.
matter if you,
Yeah.
but then that
Common
shouldn't matter.
It is
decency.
wrong, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
that should be like, well,
It's
do you
like,
know
what
what?
is your common decency and what's my common decency, sort of thing. Like, it's totally different things, being raised differently with different cultures. So it's hard to. It's like me trying to be a racist when I'm not, but that's their culture, and they're trying to convince me it's right, but I know it's wrong. But and then it's like it's the same sort of thing with religion, I think. Like, my cat's blacker than your cat. You should believe in this because it's the right thing to believe. Well, like, oh well, no, you believe in this because this is what I believe in. That's the right thing to believe in. It's like, well, you both could be wrong.
I guess
Like,
we could,
do you know what I mean?
I guess
Like,
we
have you
could
had
maybe
that
very
opinion?
well have a whole other podcast on belief systems, You know,
Oh,
it's certainly
God.
something that we we could go into. But I mean, where we're
Wow.
today is the fact that there's, right back to the start, a lot of the gaming community has been absolutely rocked by a series of allegations that have been thrown at people. Now, regardless if you think that they're true or not, you can't say it's not rocked everybody. You can't say that it's not made people think. It's not made people look at themselves a little bit differently today.
Oh yeah.
If you're on Twitter at all, and follow gaming channels, especially World of Warcraft guys, you'll see it today. It's a very different place,
Yeah.
and it's sad. This is where we should be coming to have a laugh, to meet people that we would never have met before in my life. Some of the greatest human beings I have ever met was through that game,
Mm-hmm.
and I would never have met them if it wasn't for that. And
Yeah, exactly.
we should appreciate that, and we should try and get back on course with that, and we should try to learn from this. And if we have people in, whether it's guilds, clans, groups, whatever it is in your specific game that you met, that you're calling those people out, and that you're making sure that there is a line between joking, having a laugh with people, knowing your fucking limits with people, because there's one thing I could say to one woman, and something that I could say is exactly the same thing to another woman, and they'll take it totally differently depending on my relationship with them. I have friends that we can say whatever we like to each other because we know each other. But if I walked up to, any random, I was going to say any random Karen, but that wouldn't have been fair. Any random girl in the street, they don't know who I am. They don't know what I'm capable of. We need to make sure that what we can do is, people have said in the chat, well, what do we do to change it? It's very, very difficult for us sitting here to change a whole society, but what we can do is change what in our immediate sphere of influence, and everybody else can as well, and at least have what we have in terms of a gaming community, and make that a little bit stronger, make that a little bit more inclusive, and make people feel a little bit safer.
And to communicate, like, if you feel like you're having these issues, no matter how big or small, no matter how they make you feel, tell someone. Like, do you know what I mean? It's even if you think it's out of the ordinary, or if you think it's just irrelevant, it might not be irrelevant. It might be something so big, but you don't realize because you don't know. Like, it's just a lot of people are scared to come out and say that this has happened to them because of the person that's done it and the platform they have, and how many fans can literally go to their Facebook or go to their personal account and absolutely shit on them and stuff like that, and their family, and get the family involved and say, well, your mum's this and your dad's this, and literally, is it all worth it? But yeah, it is, because the more you do it, the more people do it, the better it's going to be. Obviously,
I think nipping it in the bud as quickly and as young as possible is really important. And if you think that it's big things like school and parents that are going to make the difference, it isn't. You as a gamer or a streamer, like on Twitch or wherever, if you've got somebody that's on the younger side, maybe they're they haven't got as much life experience as you see them calling out a woman or saying something racist or whatever, you can be that person that says, she might not want to hear that, or I don't think that was the right thing to say, rather than just letting it slide and pretend it didn't happen. Like, we need to educate those people that are, I mean, they're becoming streamers really young now. Like, it's ridiculous how many streams I've jumped into, and you can hear the voice, and I'm like, how old is that child? And if they're going around saying things that they've maybe heard from an older streamer and they think that's appropriate, we should be the people, if we're hearing it, to say, that's not appropriate. Actually, I know you've probably heard that from somebody, and you might not realize it, but this is how it's come across to people. You might want to rethink that. Trying to. You don't want to be that guy that says it.
But do people listen to that?
I think you should.
Do people listen to that? Especially, I mean, the way you put it, I totally agree with. I don't disagree with it in the slightest. The only thing is, some folk don't. They see that as being sort of talked to by their mum or their dad.
Yeah,
and
I agree with you.
Sometimes it does need a firm slap, like, motherfucker, shut the fuck up, and it's like, and sometimes threatening them with it. Do you want kicked out? Do you enjoy being in this guild? Do you? Yeah, no, I get a lot out of it. I have fun. Do you? Well, if you carry on like that, you can get to fuck. And there's people in here
Yeah.
that know me fine well that we've done that. You know,
Yeah.
and it's all right, Out Pepper.
Okay.
You don't, because I'm still working on you. Okay. I know I don't enjoy. No, I don't enjoy. You know.
But no, I just mean like, you know, you're going to point it out. I mean, I don't think you need to be like shut that person down, aggressive. Like, you can point it out, and then
Yeah.
if they're going to say like, nah, fuck you, I'll say what I want, then you'll be like, no, actually you won't, because you're going to get banned or whatever, you know. I just think some of the younger ones, especially, they've probably picked it up from somebody else or a parent or whatever, and they think that way of speaking to somebody is appropriate, and they need to be
Or
told
Twitch
it's not.
chat.
So however that happens, I think whoever hears it, you can't just sit there, pretend it didn't happen, or pretend you didn't see it in the chat. You should say something.
I mean, I think a
It's
recurring thing saying here. Sorry, don't mind. Mine's real short because I don't have long thoughts. But you know, we keep coming back down to education, and if it's happening at that point in front of you, that means that parental education has failed them.
Mm-hmm.
That means institutional education has failed them. I don't really want to say that, and I don't necessarily mean failed them, but you know, it hasn't reached them. Then perhaps is the way I should say. And
them.
all right, you're a little more harsh than me. You're now that last port of call if it's happening in front of, in front of.
I'm like, no, motherfucker, you failed.
You could be that person educating them, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, this is wrong, this is why. And I don't think it necessarily has to be that confrontational in the first instance anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's the point. And if you sit there and you think, well, if they're coming out and saying that, then, you know, they haven't learned throughout the years that that's wrong. So they're just a dickhead. That's the wrong attitude. You should be telling them. It shouldn't just be, oh yeah, but it's just a prick. Like, we'll just kick him out or whatever. They need to be told by not just one person that decides to, because I mean, you get called a Karen if you're going to pick someone up on something. They're like, oh, all right, but it shouldn't be
Karens
like
are
that.
real
It
too,
should
though.
be- Karens are a real thing, guys.
That's not sexist.
Cringe,
It's not. It's
the
that Karens are a real problem, and which we need to face as well. That'll be another podcast. How to stop the Karens being Karens.
Stop Karens.
They're multiplying.
The Karens are everywhere.
They're everywhere. Kill them all.
Well, there's that thing, isn't there? That,
yeah,
like a moth drawn to the flame or whatever. Like, whenever there's chaos going on, people just thrive off it. Like, and there's a reason Karens do that, and it's to get those moths.
What was it you said, I think, McLeod, when we spoke? And I think you looked it up, possibly in Urban Dictionary, a Karen. What was it? A Karen is a person that you'll say, Karen, can I see my kids?
Please read the Karen.
Go on. I will read it. I will go look it up quickly, but it's about the kids, isn't it?
Yeah. But, it's important that we don't let what some of these high-profile streamers have done affect more people. You know, and they don't get away with it.
I agree. I know
I don't like Twitter as such for the amount of flaming that goes on and the trolling that goes on, but constructive calling out of bad behavior, I think you should do it. You know, if somebody's fucked up, you fucking tell them they fucked up. And I know that
it should be incentivized. Like it should be pushed. You shouldn't have to feel like you can't do it because something's going to happen to you in your account. Like it should be incentivized to do that.
I get that some people say, yeah, but this can push people to suicide. It can push people to mental health issues. It can do this. Yep. Yeah, it can. You should have thought of that before he raped a girl.
Exactly. Like, yeah.
Regardless,
no justification.
If you're going to go and you're going to do such a heinous thing to another human being, you lose many of your fucking rights.
Mm-hmm.
You lose many of your fucking and from that point on, you know, if people slate you and haul you over the coals to the point where, you know, you are a quivering fucking wreck in the fetal position in the corner, so be it, because that's exactly how you left your victim.
Exactly. Like, and even like Dr. Lucy says, like, you know, there's PSHE being taught, but it's badly across the country because it's not a priority, because it's not science and English. No. Like, it should be a top priority, like sort of curricula with like history and science and biology. Like it's just normal. Like they need to prepare them what it's like for the real world. Because I remember leaving school and going into the real world. It's nothing like what they say. Like it's totally different
Is
because
it
they don't
physical,
teach you about shit like.
what's PSHE is physical, social, something, health education, something like that.
Yeah,
Sex ed, basically.
Got
Yeah.
it spot on. Yeah, sex ed. Yeah.
But yeah, say you don't teach about like mortgages and there's, yeah, I know algebra, but when have I ever used algebra? Like you can't, you'll just get rid of certain shit and put newest like stuff which is relevant, especially with this whole, these rape allegations and these sort of, these people doing what they want basically and getting away with it because they can and they have been doing. Like,
The school
why is
system very much is that a whole other thing, isn't it? And again, we've covered so many different things that could be whole topics on their own, and the school system certainly
Yeah.
one of them. And I'm sure there'll be many parents out there that probably have similar views of the fact that it's just all the way that pupils and kids are educated, accredited, grouped together, and is just wrong. It's not right.
Arcane.
It's arcane. It's not forward thinking. There are so many kids out there that are creative and artistic and musical that don't get the expression, the influence
The
that
outlet.
they should, the outlet, the influence that they should be getting in order to really succeed and find their path in life. But instead, because they're a little bit all over the place, because they're being taught some random subjects that they can't really get, they can't really understand, and then being slated for it by teachers and other pupils, they're getting tired with the label of being ADHD.
Yeah, and getting everything wrong when it's not wrong. It's just you've learned it differently. You'd learn differently. You're not wrong. You just because you don't write sums out on a bit of paper and you can't work things out doesn't mean you don't get it. It's just you're working it out differently. But I feel like the educational system definitely doesn't see that. They say like, well, this is right and this is wrong, and if you're not that, you're that. There's a
question. What the hell am there? There's a question. It's like Dr. Lucy just mentioned there. It's interesting when you mention it to rich kids. Now, is that because they don't know the value of money? And again, we could probably go into lots of other sort of topics about parenting and how this should be done. And it's easy for fucking me, to sit here not being a parent and saying all this stuff. And the amount of times somebody's come to me and goes, well, when you have kids, you'll understand. I'm sorry, motherfucker, but I'm not a helicopter pilot. But if I saw one in a tree, I can certainly turn around and say that's probably pilot error, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, what the fuck's happening with your camera? But yeah, so it's you can certainly say that, Yeah, he's fucking about that.
But I know what Bane's saying. Obviously, it's not. Someone shouldn't be taught to say that rape is a bad thing. Like, I understand where he's coming from, but if your society's not doing it or your upbringing's not doing it, it should fall on the educational system because you're in it for so long. It should fall into that as part of changing your view.
Well, it'd be quite easy with stuff like sex ed, wouldn't it? It would be so easy to just extend on it a little bit and sort of explain to people, like the pupils and stuff, how an advance might, how a person might take an advance from them, and it's not always wanted, and that kind of thing. Like, did you know that just rubbing up shoulders with somebody could make them feel really scared and vulnerable? Like you don't think about that kind of thing. The same as when you think about having sex, you don't think about, a lot of people think about, oh, I could get pregnant, but you don't think about if you get pregnant that you might have to consider an abortion, or you might have a child that has special needs, or you might end up with twins. Like they don't go into that much of a detail. And I think if they did do that with the whole sex ed and just bulked it out a bit more, obviously the parents have a massive I can't remember who said it on here now, Banefire, about the child's upbringing and stuff. It's everything contributes. It's not just the school's fault, it's not just the parents' fault. Them as a person, as they're learning and growing, change their views. They could do the opposite of what their parents want them to do. You could be a top parent and turn out with a serial killer as a child. A lot of things contribute to it, and I think all you can do as an individual is take a stand against the things you're seeing and hearing.
With like social media, especially the younger kids now, they're getting on social media so young, they're experiencing sex at such a young age, and it's all very, very different compared to when I was a young kid. Like a lot of kids, even as a wee lad, seeing like my friend who was like 3 or 4, and he's got a phone and he can unlock it and go on an app store and download a free app and then start playing it. And I'm like what? Like, you know, a lot of people bought from society because they think, well, this is society. This is what I need to be like. I need to be like this. I need to be like that. Become like this. And this is okay because he's doing it, and that's okay because she's doing it. And it's like, well, no, you don't just follow people. Just know what's right and wrong. But it's hard because they think what's right and wrong is different to what we think is right and wrong. If that makes sense.
The thing with school is that the whole purpose while you're there is to try not to be the bottom of the pile. You know, it's to try and not be the guy that is getting picked on the most. So if you can just be one step above it, then you're fucking winning. That's what it is. You know,
it's safety in numbers as well.
We could have a whole fucking thing on universal basic income, by the way. You know.
But it's safety in numbers as well. If you're in a group of friends, and the majority of them have a certain opinion, and you know it's not the correct opinion, you know that what they're saying or doing is not the right thing. It is so hard to be that guy that says, we've got to stop this. Like, I don't want to be a part of this. And there's that peer pressure with anything. Like,
everybody thinks they'd be Oscar
especially
Schindler. Everybody thinks they'd be the guy that stands up and, you know, does the right thing and all that. But you know what? Most people weren't. Because it's a hard thing to do.
It is really hard, but what's so easy is like what we've seen with these women coming out is it's that one brave person that then trickles all the rest of them. Like, I can assure you, anyone in your streams, if you're going to stick up for something, you're not going to be the only one. Like the Twitch community stuff people are amazing. I think that truly, I don't think that everybody is, you know, predatory on streaming sites and stuff. I don't want to believe that. I think that at least, you know, in most streams there's going to be those people that will stand up for the right thing, and you just need to be that one person, because you're not likely to be alone, and even if you are, you know it's the right thing, so you just need to be brave enough to do it.
Harvey Weinstein effect. One person came out, and how many people came out after that? 100? It was just a ripple effect, and then he's in jail now? He's in prison. Like, if she never did that and took that stand and thought, actually, you did do that to me, I remember what happened. Like, he would still been bopping around doing his own thing, like cracking on. Like, it's scary. It's shit that has to get to a point where it can't be justified at that moment in time if she reports it to the police because, well, it's Harvey Weinstein or it's this person. It has to be on the line where everyone has to group up together. It has to go on for a massive long trial. Then all the media has to get involved and start posting about it. And then it takes like hundreds of people to get to a point where it puts a point across to prove that he's actually guilty. Like, why does it have to get to that extent? Why can't it be nipped in the bud years ago? And then, you know, if there's evidence there and it proves it, regardless of how big or how rich he is, he's still got bones, he's still got organs like me and you.
Did anyone hear the Joe Rogan bit about that? So Joe Rogan, and he got slated for it, but he was like, you know, if my daughter came to me and said, you know, this isn't exactly like it, I've probably not got his timing, but anyway, he said, if my daughter came round to me and said, you know, Daddy, there's this ugly potholed old man that said if I sleep with him, I'm going to be famous, I'm going to win an Oscar. He's like, I'd go round and kick fuck out of him. And he's like, however, if my son came round and said that, I'd be like, motherfucker, you're going to be Batman. You know, it's like...
Yeah,
there's a lot of guys that think that, though. You know, it's just like there's double standards. You know, there is double standards. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of women as well that would be perfectly willing to give a gristly old fucking moron like him a blowjob to become famous. And again, that's education as well. That's educating young women that you don't need to do that.
Like, but even if they want to do like you know, like sex workers and people in Amsterdam and prostitutes and stuff, if that's what they want to do, they shouldn't be also discriminated for doing that as well. It doesn't mean they're going to sleep with every single guy in a bar and stuff, but if that's their profession and that's what they want to do, then that's cool as well. But I believe some people think, oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a sex worker. Oh, right, she's going to have sex with me tonight then. It's like, well, no, I'm not. I don't just sleep with any guy I see. It's a profession at the end of the day, and there's like clients and stuff involved. But yeah, again, it's again just society, all down to a nutshell. It's just what society is like nowadays.
When me and Toasty start our joint OnlyFans page, you know,
of course,
we start our joint OnlyFans page. It's going to be full-blown vegetable porn, and it's going to be great.
Oh God.
Guys, I think we've covered a lot of stuff, and despite the technical issues at the start, guys, thank you so very much, and chat, you guys have been banging. Thank you. It was our first show. We tried to do something. We had another show planned, a whole other show planned. We just thought this was important to talk about, and we thought that this is the sort of thing that you guys can interact with us with pretty well, considering what's been going on. And we really appreciate your support through this. We're going to be doing these sorts of shows every fortnight. Hopefully we'll have some light-hearted ones, we'll have some silly ones, we'll have some serious ones, we'll have some controversial ones. But guys, thank you so very much. You guys have been absolutely amazing. You'll find my Discord in the panels, and if you do have suggestions for shows, you just throw it in there, right? If there's something you want to hear, if you think we should be talking about, if you want to talk about it, if it's important to you, you let us know and we'll talk about it. But again, guys, thank you so very, very much. It's been a lovely couple of hours. Sorry for the technical errors. Guys, last thing from you guys, is there anything you guys would want to say?
I just say thank the chat. I love the conversations we've been getting. I love the sort of debate we've been going on, people's different opinions, talking and getting everyone's sort of different outlook. And that's the start, just talking about it and actually having an opinion on what you think and what you think is right, even if if someone else thinks it's wrong. But yeah, I appreciate everyone getting involved and coming and listening to what we have to say, even if it is slightly controversial sometimes. But it's all in good, it's all for a good cause. It's for a good reason. It's we're not together, aren't we, at the end of the day, regardless of what's going on. So I just appreciate Saruk as well. I just want to thank Saruk for getting us on here and giving us an outlet to actually do this. And I appreciate every one of you.
Oh. Go on, McLeod. Go on, McLeod. McLeod's like, right, I want to talk about
that. How do you begin to follow that? But
hang on. Can we just before Toasty, you look a bit like Anthony Jr. in The Sopranos in the later seasons.
Wow, that's specific.
Boom. Sorry, McLeod, you were saying.
Oh, yeah. No. I have no idea what I was saying, but yeah, thanks guys for coming along. I hope we've made a little bit of headway into normalizing an issue that should be easy to talk about, and particularly men calling out other men, and just to bring it all back down to education, in whatever form it takes, it should be there.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks guys for joining us, and also thank you, Saruk, for having us here.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Thank you, Saruk. Thank you guys in chat. I think the main thing I wanted to say, because of this specific subject, was females. If it has happened to you guys, if anybody wants to talk, I have my own experiences, and feel free to contact me if you want to. I know Saruk's got some information for you that you'll be telling us in a minute, I guess. So there's places where you can go, but just know that you're loved. It's not going to be taken as a lie or because you want attention or for whatever reason. And guys, if you've ever been that way towards a woman in the past, you're no longer that person. You know it's wrong. You're a changed person. Everybody can change. I think that as long as we're stopping it when we see it, that's the best thing that we can do as an individual.
Definitely.
And just thank you for listening. Much love.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, guys, I've got some resources for groups and support groups. If you've been a victim of anything that we've spoken about, they'll be going on both my Discord, and this will be going up on YouTube, and it'll be going in the comment section below for you guys. And as I say, guys, you're all very welcome. And I can't wait till we do this again. And again, guys, thank you so very, very much. You guys have a lovely evening, and thank you for joining us. And we'll speak to you all real soon. Bye.
See you in a bit, guys. Take care. Bye.